Good morning. Coming in for a landing. 5:05 a.m. And the big question: anyone facing dialysis treatment and having the degrading kidney function, when do you decide to go on dialysis? And I struggled with that one. Of course, I didn't want to admit it. I was diagnosed about 35 years ago. So it was impending, and eventually I pretty much knew I would end up on dialysis and with complete failure. My failure was indicated, what do you call it, GSA, was down to 7. Um, the year prior, or about a year and a half prior to that, it was, I think, was about 13. I should check my records. And I actually already had a ticket to fly to Asia, and I pretty much knew my situation was evolving and degrading. um, I got a phone call that literally the day before I was going to depart, and no surprise, the medical receptionist sounded ominous, and "Oh, sir, I have to tell you," as if I was going to be shocked. I wasn't shocked. I didn't change my plans whatsoever. I just knew my time was less, and whatever life has brought me, I haven't been able to bounce back. And, you know, possibly if I had used other methods, I possibly could have improved my kidney function. I don't know. There were, different things I tried, but here I am today. And, currently, um, I can see how I probably should have admitted that I was going into a failure mode. And I wasn't in denial. It was just, uh, I didn't want to go on dialysis. I didn't want to have this tube in my heart, jugular vein. So there's a lot of different reasons you can come up with to put it off, and that's the natural progression that it's likely going to go downhill. Um, I don't know. There are different types of kidney disease and failure, and I'd like to observe the patients at the dialysis clinic that I go to. I don't know how many stations they have, more than 20, I think. Um, so there's potentially more than 20 dialysis patients at one time period of 3.5 hours. It's always 3.5 hours. And I'll tell you, I stopped by there and almost got a tour, but just seeing the other patients, I hate to brag, but I'm in a lot better condition, despite the fact I ran it down to weeks or maybe a matter of days before I would have just been dead. Uh, I was starting to get very, very ill. But going back to comparison, the other patients there, of course, there's the very aged a couple of people that were there that are no longer there. I don't know if they passed away. So there's a certain number of them that are in life situation and they're not going to survive. Then you have a few that are pretty capable, and then you have more rare one. She's actually 18 years old, and I don't know if I would interview her for my YouTube channel, but she's been on dialysis about a year, and so it forms all different types of people, and there's no discriminating factor, and a lot more people than you know are on dialysis or going to need it, or they have a close relative. Um, After you get involved with it, you hear more. You run into more people that have direct experience. So going back to the original question, I only have a few minutes because I have to be in the shower and in the car in about 20 minutes for my 15 or 20-minute drive down the highway. How do you decide when is the right time to get dialysis? Because the doctors will try to convince you and put you on dialysis sooner. I suspect they get some kind of kickbacks on how many patients. For sure they benefit somehow, and the dialysis centers are popping up all over the country, whereas they weren't that available before. So yeah, you try to weigh everything out, live as healthy as possible. If you're a heavy smoker, heavy drinker, well, then you have those demons you got to figure out, or you're not going to survive, or possibly they won't give you a transplant due to the fact they're judging on your lifestyle, and they're figuring you're not going to you're potentially going to reject that kidney and is going to be a failure. So there's a lot of hoops to jump through. But how do you decide? Okay, the obvious factors, what I experienced probably a year and a half prior to starting dialysis, I definitely noticed weight loss, and probably 2019 I was about 175 pounds, and happened to be a gym in my condo where I was living, and so I was probably in pretty decent shape of recent years, but generally my weight had not been under 180, and not fat, not in poor condition. I don't have diabetes, don't have high cholesterol. Everything else is pretty much golden except the kidney function. That is genetic, and probably nothing, well, I can't say nothing, but likely my lifestyle had very little to do with its progression. It was just little by little going away. So back to the point of when I decided, well, I ran it down to the end of the fuse, and it pretty much became decided for me to the point where I had major weight loss and I had very little appetite. So those are a couple of definite warnings. And then in the mornings, probably at least 2 or 3 times a week, I might suddenly feel nauseous, maybe coughing a couple of times. Getting going in the morning was getting rough. And so 2 or 3 times a week, I would start off the day vomiting. And that's another serious sign you better be paying attention to. But when you run down so far, my weight was down to 135 pounds. I was looking like I was, in fact, on death's door. And now I'm proud to tell you I'm up to about 165 pounds. I can wheel my motorcycle around. Before I literally was afraid I'd just drop it, and I couldn't hardly pull it out or back it up, or I was getting extremely weak and frail. I'd never been, probably since age 13, had never been in that lightweight mode. So those are some basics. You'll have to decide. I wouldn't just turn it all over to doctors and the medical profession, because they might have different plan or ideals of how you can form, just like blood pressure. That's one of my big issues. I'll talk more about this in the future. I've got to get ready to get down the road. But that's some of the basics of what you might be thinking of, and how you might handle pre-dialysis. Thanks, and have a great day.